That's what's. Well, here we go. Woo! Woo! I look at live at the GovCast. Football season is started. Some of us are happy, some of us are not. I think most of the people are unhappy on the show, so we will try to mix in. This is so appropriate. We're doing the long play.
Oh my God!
Birds, baby, Eagles.
The Eagles are back. Steven finally can stop crying about the Eagles up north. Happy, Steven. The Eagles won. Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I need to get a new jersey. So
you got Joe Flacco. I can lend you my Joe Flacco jersey. You know he's back. I know he'll be on the field before the end of the year.
Joe Flacco. He's been around as a backup for a while. He started for you guys for a little bit, right?
He won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he did all right.
Oh,
There you are at the Super Bowl.
Oh, there it is on the left side. Monday night, I went south. I don't know if anyone saw the end of the Ravens game. Super frustrating. Raiders are super happy. So the Ravens won, then the Raiders won, then the Ravens won, then the Raiders won. All in 10 minutes. You're like, what just happened? We won the game. Oh, no, we lost. Oh, we won. Oh, no, we lost. So super frustrating.
Bills lost too. I guess I'm kind of a Bills fan now.
Look, and Steve, in honor. Steve, where'd you go? Come on, tell the people.
Yeah, I was up in. So, fun fact: the Football Hall of Fame is in Canton, Ohio.
Everyone knows that.
I did not know that. I was up there for a wedding, and it turned out that right where the wedding was at was also the Football Hall of Fame. So, spent 2 hours before the ceremony, tour around, learned some fun facts. One fact I'll leave you with is during World War II, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers formed together as one team because there was a shortage of people to play. So they formed the team. So that's a little piece of history for you.
Ooh, we'd never do that. We never join with the Steelers. So I'd rather just go out of business. So that's really, I'm not sure that's a great fact. But
Is that your number one nemesis or your rival?
Yep.
Ours is the Cowboys.
I don't think the Cowboys feel that way.
I don't know. Come to Philadelphia, Cowboys.
I think they go to Redskins. Dre, anything else you want to add? Any football insights? Yeah, the Bills didn't look good either.
I didn't even watch it. I was literally sleeping like all day Sunday. I barely watched any football. I think we're still exhausted from last week. But I'm caught up. I've got all my energy back.
Did you recover? Or did you go to the doctor? Or we recover from our ATV accident?
No. Oh, my back is actually fine. I'm just waiting for my elbow to heal. But no, everything's good. A couple of my girlfriends got COVID from our trip though, so that's unfortunate.
Super spreader. That's what you do. Yeah.
I don't have it though.
Anywhere. I know, but that's the whole problem with this.
Well, I'm saying though, yeah, like I was just saying a couple of us were lucky to not get it, and some of them were not so lucky. That's all.
We know some of them that weren't so lucky.
No, you've heard of one of my friends. You've heard of both of them.
But they're not around. They're not on our staff. All right.
No.
All right, we should get off this very sensitive topic, the COVID topic. So I'd love to bring in our guest today. We're going to talk about sales, business, and we're going to talk about sports. Amen. So Denise Cushaney is here, the Enterprise Account Executive for Granicus. Thank you for coming on the show today. You could tell Kelly's got the clapping. Look, it's like we go all in. It's like once they get a graphic, they get a new thing. It'll be all in 10 times.
I know. I need to borrow that for my quarterly business reviews in a few weeks.
Especially when you're done, like, if they're not great, we're going the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly.
QBRs. Denise, can you tell the millions and millions of followers about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Denise Cushaney. I am excited to be here today. I have about 15 years experience in the public sector technology market. Both from a marketing, sales, business development background. So with companies such as AT&T, CDW, Xerox, and I'm currently with an awesome company called Granicus. Let me just do my disclaimer that any views and opinions expressed here today are mine and not that of my So
there it is. Look, yeah, she's not on the hook for that. So we're going to do three things. We're going to talk about her background and career. We didn't tell Denise that we try not to talk about government sales because it bores the crap out of people, but we're going to mix some of that in today. We're going to talk about some of her associations, and then we're going to talk about the fun part sports in Chicago and her obsession with true crime shows. So I want to get to those also. They'll be more fun than anything we talk about. So, Denise, you started, I saw in your background with AT&T for a long period of time. So can you talk some about that and how did you get into AT&T? And I think today people do not love AT&T's customer service. So tell us great things about AT&T and what you did in the public safety world with them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So even when I worked there, people did not love AT&T customer service. I would never wear logoed shirts to the grocery store or you would get attacked. And that was years ago. But no, actually started at AT&T as an intern in the law department. They offered me a full-time job. So I declined to go back to law school and decided to start a career. Thought I would go back to law school and have them pay for it. And here we are today, and I'm in government sales, not a lawyer. So read into that one.
There you go.
So, and they merged so many mergers and acquisitions, and they would reorg. So one of the reorgs where I think they really just put Post-it notes in boxes, I wound up doing state and local government marketing. And that's how my love of this market actually started. So
it's dangerous. Look, for our audience, once you get in, it's hard to get out. We were just talking about pre-show. It's like, it's so funny in the government world, all the deals are like 5X private sector. And so a big deal in private sector. In the public sector, you're like, 50 million. Rounding error, right? I saw that I was looking at one consultant, a small firm in the DC Beltway area won like a $329 million consulting gig. You're like, oh my goodness. Oh, I just want 10% of that. You know, it's on the sales side. You're like, what's the commission on 329? You know what I mean? You're like, it's like hitting a freaking lottery. It's
100%.
It's so crazy. And then so from AT&T, I think we crossed paths at CDWG, right? So that's their government part. And so what was the connection there? What made you go to CDW?
Actually, so I knew someone in the industry. I was just looking for a change. We had reorged again at AT&T, and I was serving as a chief of staff, which was super stressful, but a lot of fun, and I learned a ton. But I really wanted to get back into that state and local government marketing. Yeah. At the time, it was hard to do in the Chicago area, right? Like everything was based out of DC. Yeah. So one of my friends worked with CDWG as her client, and she's like, hey, they're hiring a state and local government marketing manager. You should talk. So that is kind of how that happened. It's all the network. It's a big family in public sector, I feel like.
Yeah, we were just talking about, everybody kind of, especially in public safety and the government world, folks stay around there forever. And now with Granicus, and I was on the Granicus website, it seems like there's a wide array of things trying to just make the government more functional, more consumer friendly, more constituent friendly, right? So can you talk about that? Like what Granicus is doing and the uniqueness of their technology and how it works?
I absolutely can. And I have to apologize if anyone from my company is looking at this because they are judging me and being like, we're taking away our certifications. No. First of all, I just want to say the one thing I love about Granicus and the thing that makes it so special is we only sell to public sector clients. So it's amazing to work for a company that only sells to government and education because it's a different process, right? It's a different sales procurement process. But we are really focused on an entire digital engagement platform. So how are governments communicating with their constituents and residents? How are they making lives easier for their constituents and residents, especially in the days where people aren't wanting to go to in-person to wait in line to renew licenses or do this or that? Government transparency in the form of FOIA requests, how are you managing those? What does your government website look like? Is it created in a way that is accessible for everyone by someone that really knows government on a secure platform? So all those ways that government is facing their citizens, we are really looking to add value into that.
It's great. Listen, and if you've never been on I encourage you to go to the Granicus site. Your website's amazing. I mean, you could it's like being on Google. You just rabbit hole down to 15 clicks and you're like, how did I get here? There's a ton of information about the government process on the Granicus website. So
thanks. And we can do websites like this for government entities. So anyone out there who need a website, give us a call.
Yes. I tell, our staff, the production staff, go look at the Granicus site. It's amazing.
Well, thanks.
So Denise, so you mentioned, right, public sector is a different sales process, different procurement. I know that it's different from private sector in hundreds of thousands of ways, but would you mind just maybe telling us a little bit about what you mean by that, or like some of the biggest differentiators between private selling versus public?
Yeah.
Sure. No, that's great. One of the things I really find in the public procurement process is that there's more people that need to be engaged. So really, I mean, we call it kind of that buyer map. So where with a private company, you may be able to get a deal done just talking to the CIO and the CFO. Boom, you're done, you're in. However, in a public sector, you've got to have your procurement people involved. You've got to have the different agencies involved. You've got to have IT. And sometimes IT is centralized. Sometimes IT is in the agency. So there may be multiple IT departments. Yeah. And sometimes in public sector, the people you're selling to don't even know everyone that needs to be involved. So I feel like it's just more of a network sale and a map sale, if you will. Yep. So the number of people that can say no expands.
Yeah, so I know you worked for some big companies, right? AT&T, CDW. I also saw in your background like NetSmart, Galvanize, some names that people might not heard, on like television commercials. So I'm just curious, both public sector, how did the selling process differentiate from working for like the big companies and the resource and that brand recognition that you already have compared to working for like the small companies trying to pave that path and, get people to adopt your product?
Yeah, Stephen, that is a great question. I mean, I feel like even with a smaller company, the sales process is kind of the same. I mean, obviously you have to build some of that brand recognition, but you're able to do that really in the same ways by giving those customer references, if you will. So that's really what government wants to hear. Have you done this for someone else? Have you done it successfully? The one thing with smaller companies who don't only sell the public sectors, a lot of times, a lot of your work is inside the company, trying to manage those expectations internally from people who may not be familiar with a different public sector sales cycle. So kind of managing internally, I find was more of a challenge than necessarily the external sales process.
Yeah, one thing just to piggyback on that is the contracts, right? We always talk about the 10 different ways the government buys outside the bid and RFP. So I was wondering, like, when you're at the other companies, smaller companies compared to the big ones, did you have like contracts or co-ops, state contracts that you used? Or I know there's different channels to make it easier for that sales process as well.
Yeah, so we did, and we do at Granicus too. We do a lot of the cooperative purchasing agreements. We have some state level agreements here. So absolutely, we have those. Again, the contracts at smaller companies who don't only focus on public sector is sometimes internal challenges as to what risks you're willing to accept and what terms and conditions you're willing to accept, right? States don't have to negotiate with everyone. States can't negotiate a lot of those terms. And so the education inside the company as to kind of where you need to be able to bend to continue to do business with a certain entity is important.
I love when the government sneaks in their T for C clause. You're like, oh my goodness, you can cancel anytime. No. That's the craziest part. And it kind of piggybacking on what Steve said, I know he's talking about kind of which one did you like working with. Can you share with our audience your best tips for starting that process, right? I think once folks get in, they have a couple wins, I think the excitement of the government side kind of takes over and the size of the deals are typically notable. But the hard part is always the first 4 or 5 deals, right? And so can you talk about your experience with that? Again, you've been with the big companies and the small companies. Any advice, insights as folks start the process, as they think about selling to the government? Like where would you tell them to start? What tips, what things did you see work great? And what things maybe you look back and you're like, oh, I'll never do that again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. The never do that again. I think that list is probably longer. But as far as what to do, I mean, get involved in associations, get involved in the whole network that is public sector, get involved in the community that is public sector. Because as a dear sales leader, Howard, if you're on, this is for you. Relationships don't necessarily sell. They don't close deals, but relationships can open doors. And in this marketplace, people talk. So states talk to states, states talk to localities, successes talk to successes, and failures talk to people you're trying to get to, right?
Even louder.
So you need to have strong relationships to open doors to start a sales process that you can then close. The relationship won't close the sale, but the relationship can open a door.
Right. It's so important. I think it's great advice. So when folks, when they're trying to win their first deal, they look at it like, what's the profitability? What's it? And like, it's so important. Just get in, even if you use break even or you round break even, it doesn't really matter. Because once you've won your first deal, one of the things that folks don't realize, other government agencies run queries on who they work with. And now you're in the pool of companies that agencies have worked with. And it changes the entire game. So sometimes you have to look at, we always talk about, Stephen talks about GSU. Like you just look at that first deal or two as a marketing cost. Don't look at the profitability of it in a silo. Look at your first one or two government deals as marketing. Yep. Get in, and when, as you mentioned, all the government agencies talk. They all, good and bad. When they're great, they will scream it from the mountaintops, and when it stinks, they will scream it from twice as many mountaintops. Right? So funny. True. It's so true.
And then things I wouldn't do, again, don't assume anything. Like, don't assume that you know or that your client knows what the sales process is. So we're really big on having kind of a joint action plan. So laying out, like, here's everything that needs to happen to get this deal closed, and then cover that off with your customer. You may have things on there that they haven't thought of, or they may know of things that aren't on there. And so you can manage to that timeline, which then can help get things across.
So good. Yes.
So do you have any kind of cadence that you use when targeting these agencies? Because I work with different companies who maybe haven't sold to the government. They're like, I don't want to be super annoying. Like, they think that people who work for the government are like on this pedestal, right? Like, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to reach out too much. Do you do anything like that? Have any kind of cadence for your outreach?
Yeah. So yes and no. I mean, it really depends, right? So some cadence can be driven by what's going on in the news today, right? So for example, I think there was just some federal news that more of that housing funding is going to states who are actually releasing the funding in the right way, right? So in a government sales, if I'm selling into housing agencies, guess who I'm calling on today? And my cadence is going to be around that. Sure. So I think, but then I'm also not going to want to talk to those people about a website cadence that I might have running. So I think it's a fine line, and I don't have the secret sauce yet. If anyone out there does, please send it my way.
Steve does.
Because there's so many, right? Unsubscribe is so easy to do, or do not contact, and I don't want that to happen either. So I recognize that worry, but at the same time, if I have information to share that I think can help, I always try to include that in my cadence, right? Like, is there a webinar? Is there a white paper? Is there something that I think is of value to you besides me just pitching to you? So sure.
I agree with you, Denise. Everybody's human. Just because they're agencies doesn't matter. So one message might work for one person, that doesn't work. So it's not the agency or the agency type. It's just about, connecting with them on that level where they're willing to speak with you. And I feel like that's the hardest part, is getting them on the line to say hello, and this is who I am. And if you can get that time, 5-10 minutes, that goes a long way. And that actually books the meeting for you to present what you have to offer or how you can help. I always leave the door open, part ways as friends. I'm not here to I just want to educate you and let you know what we're doing and how we can help you, or how we helped other agencies. And that's what I'm really curious to hear more, Denise, is about citizen engagement. I know it's such a hot topic. Past 5-10 years, it's been building. And I feel like it's now more important than ever with people going through this, process.
Yeah.
So I just want to know your thing is what's important to the citizens. I don't know if you can share any information from Granicus, what do people care about, and what are they doing to engage with the cities? Because let's face it, it's always the same people that show up for the town hall meetings. Those 10 people they have the loudest voice, but it's not the majority. So I'm really curious to hear, what citizens or Granicus has put together on the citizens and what they care about.
Yeah. So a lot of what we're seeing is citizens, what's really important is communicating to them in a way that they want to be communicated to. So let them choose the medium on which they want to engage. Your younger people, they're not going to be going to their email. They're not going to be going online. They want to text. I mean, I'm not young and I want to text because it's not going to get lost in my inbox, right? In my personal inbox with my sale flyers or my kids' grades or that stuff, right? So send me a text so I can actively engage. That also helps reach underserved populations. So where broadband's an issue, most everyone has a smartphone. So that multimedia engagement we're finding very important. I laugh when you talk about, not everyone wants to show up to a meeting to have the loudest voice. So how Granicus solved that is we just procured a company actually called Bang the Table, which is kind of
I did that from ELGL, Engage Local Government Leaders. They were like, they promote, they're awesome. Congratulations.
So they are part of the Granicus family now, and we are actually seeing that be utilized. My local government just sent out a thing for railroad crossings, and it was all done on Engagement HQ, which is the Bang the Table platform, on really giving me a voice. Like, what are your biggest concerns about these grade crossings? Which one should we start with? Really, because the powers that be can make these decisions back in a boardroom, but hearing from the people that maybe have to cross those train tracks every day or have kids that cross them, you're going to find out things that you're not going to necessarily have gotten around that table. So. Yeah. And I wasn't going to be showing up in a meeting to talk about it. Like, it's not that important to me, but 5 minutes from my laptop over a cup of coffee, I can respond.
Make it easier. Yeah, that's awesome.
Can you share I know you mentioned some of the organizations that are such a big part of success in the government space. So if folks aren't aware, there's probably a government show every single week or every single weekend in that, you name it, a federal, state, or local, there's always a ton of shows, folks from both sides of the contractors and the government folks gathering. And so can you share maybe some of the organizations you found to be most helpful in the process for your career and that you've seen actually move the ball?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, again, I'm here as me, not necessarily as Granicus. So I don't know that we are involved in all of these today as Granicus. First and foremost, at a state level, the National Association of State CIOs is huge. That is not so much an exhibit hall. It's not so much a selling. You're not necessarily going to close deals because you went there, but you're absolutely going to build relationships. You're going to learn what's important to the CIOs, and you're going to figure out who's friends with who to open some doors. Yeah. So that is a big one. The National Association of State Technology Directors is another one. That's thought leadership combined with kind of exhibit halls. Every state has their own kind of summits, if you will, whether they be digital government summits or technology summits or this or that, that really pull together your state and local government leaders. So find those organizations. National Association of Counties, if you're dealing with local government, is another huge one. Really, you're going to find the key players. You're going to be able to build relationships. You're going to get people to answer the phone because you can be like, hey, I was at NACIO. We didn't get cross paths, but I heard you say X, Y, and Z. Would love to talk to you more. And they're going to take your call. So,
yeah, I think, Steve, a quick lead into the end of the show. There's a webinar. Steve's going to go over some of the resources. So stay tuned to the end of the show. We'll go over some of the those organizations for next Wednesday. We're actually going to give folks a list. So do that at the end of the show.
Yeah, I'll give 3 right now because as she was talking, just popped in my head. So if you're dealing with cities and counties, ICMA is a great show. International City County Managers, like those are the people that are up top that make those decisions. I know Denise mentioned getting in touch with procurement. They're normally kind of left behind, but they're very important with that buying process. So I recommend going to NIGP, the National Institute of Government Purchasing, right? And then with the state level, once you get up to state agencies, is the NASPO, National Association of Procurement Officials. They're all involved with the buying. They're up at that high level. They might not be the end user, of course. We always want to target the people that are going to be doing what we sell at the end of the day. But those are just 3. We have more at the webinar, which we'll share with you. But I just want to give everyone that's tuning in today a couple of resources. But Denise, another question for you. As far as what challenges agencies are facing. It's 2021. We got through 2020, right? And in 2021, we thought it was going to be a smoother sailing and another bump in the road, right? So what do you
What happened, Steve? There was a bump in the road?
I know. Is that what we're calling it?
I playing it too much.
I saw some social media posts. It was like, yeah, once we're done, once we're done with COVID, it's starting to sound like once I win the lottery. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I don't think we'll ever be done. It's just something we have to live with now, like the flu. It's just a strain that you have to overcome. But Denise, like what are some challenges that you're seeing from your sales perspective of trying to reach these agencies that are dealing with these crises? I'll put more emphasis on it.
Well, I will say one of my challenges in reaching agencies is actually getting people in the office, because in several states that I sell to right now, they're not in the office right now. So it's trying to become a priority when they've got competing priorities and they're not necessarily in the office and can't pull in other people very easily. I mean, that is a challenge of the remote workforce. I don't know that it's just in public sector, right? Obviously, you have some states that are in, but you've got things. I mean, you've got hurricanes, you've got fires, you've got COVID spiking everywhere. So priorities for like civic engagement may not be the top of mind for many of the agency heads right now, although I would argue that it probably should be, because we could help get some messages out around, things like that, and really how to help their residents maneuver through kind of this new normal. So
yeah. That's actually a good point. It seems like now's the time where people need those answers or need to hear from their government to give them that piece that they need inside. It's like, what's happening?
Yeah, I can't agree more, but it's just getting them to, we just need to get them to know that.
Well, that's what I was wondering. So, the challenges that they're facing, it's hard to get everyone in a room. So what are you doing to overcome that? Like, how are you getting them in the room? Has there been anything that you've tried or tested and failed and succeeded at?
I mean, the wonderful Zoom calls. I mean, have we not had enough of those over the past 8 years?
Amen.
Yeah.
Just trying to do some webinars like focused on certain agencies or for certain states. Again, haven't found that magic sauce. So if anyone has suggestions or ideas, absolutely open to those. But it's been a challenge.
That's good. We'll teach more next Wednesday. Sorry,
I'm on, so it's already on my calendar.
Can you talk about not necessarily mistakes maybe that you've made, but maybe mistakes like different occurrences that maybe have happened throughout your career where maybe a light bulb went off, or you're like, dang, if I knew this prior.
Yeah, that's actually a great question.
For Dre. She's in the weeds now. She's selling on the other side.
Yeah. So one of my favorite failures, I will say, is we went through, this is with a former employer, went through like an 18-month sales process, got the intent to award for an RFP. We're 6 weeks into negotiations, and the agency we're working with kind of threw in some new risk language that kind of changed all the financials, and kind of, I guess that was an eye opener to me, because I'm like, they can't do that. Like, show me where that was in the RFP. Like we did our best, but like everything was, and then stuff kind of unraveled from there, right? So it was, again, trying to get those internal negotiations to kind of be willing to accept that risk. And we actually wound up losing that deal, which I know, I was like, I had 2 kids and I worked this deal longer than I carried my 2 children.
Wow.
Like, puts everything in perspective. So that was one. So I guess always be ready and always be flexible, and know that best and final pricing better have room to be more best and more final. Yeah. That's what I would say.
It's so interesting because the government had carte blanche. Like, one of the stories I always tell when we're doing new training for our employees, years ago, we won a contract. It was for the state of Mississippi in the public safety market. And so we won it. It was a 7-figure plus deal, super excited, it was going to put us on the map. And then Katrina came through, the Gulf, right? And then literally 2 months later, it was like that whole entire thing was dead because there was no public safety agencies. They were all wiped out. It was like the whole contract was gone. You're like, oh my gosh, what do you mean it's gone? Well, don't you have, and they're like, yeah, we'll be back to you in 3 years. Like, they would show, everything was flattened, and they're like, there's nowhere to install your software. There's no buildings, there's no cars. So it's like the government has to respond in such a different way than private industry. It can be good and bad.
Yeah, and elections can throw it all off too.
Oh my goodness!
2022 coming up. Make sure your deals are closed before that election happens, or you're in endless waiting.
Yes. It's that's one thing in the public procurement space. No one ever really talks about it. It's like there's the embedded bureaucracy who don't necessarily change with the the change at the top with the politics, and then there's the politics part that every 2, 4, 6 years does change, and then you see the policies pivot, and so it's always a very interesting dynamic to watch the career civil servants deal with the change at the top on their political leanings. So that is a great point. That's rarely talked about. That's really good. It's like police officers writing tickets. No one wants to talk about it. So let's talk about a couple things that are maybe a little more fun and near and dear to your heart. So I know you're involved, I think, in the the women in tech and women in sales initiatives, and so we'd love to get your perspective on those. Certainly in the last 2 years as a society, much more focus on, hey, how do we make things more fair, more equal, more access? And so would love to get your your opinion on both of those initiatives that you're involved in.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome to see. So years ago, and I'm talking, this is probably over a decade ago, there was a group of us from different companies that a group of women from different companies, both sales and marketing, that would always be at the National Association of State CIOs. So we kind of started our own like women's group there. And it was just really cool to see like, ooh, there's this powerful group of women in this very male, right? Because public sector tech is very male dominated, not just from a private sector salesperson, but the elected officials, the appointed officials. Yeah. And it has been such an amazing thing to see, more female CIOs go into play. And even the sales forces that support these private organizations, have more women on them. I think in my current team, my boss is a female, and I have 2 female peers, 2, is it 2? Yes, 2 on a staff of like 7. So it's kind of, I like the kind of equaling out, if you will. So it's been a fun ride.
Any as you gather with the folks that have, the ladies have overcome or have gotten to a certain spot, any themes resonate within that, messages you pass along to maybe the younger generation that's coming along?
Yeah. So no, that's an awesome question. I was just having a conversation about this last weekend at dinner with one of my friends. Always like that imposter syndrome is real, right? Like, don't let people tell you that you can't do it. Don't let yourself tell you can't do it. You deserve a seat at the table. And you may have a different viewpoint. You may not have kind of the same credentials as someone at the table, but you're still qualified for the job and you still have a voice, and you have to use your voice. Like, that is a big one. Don't be silenced because you're around a group of men. Like, open your mouth and use your voice.
Amen.
I love that. So something that we always talk about, and I imagine is a common theme amongst many companies, right, is that you always need to figure out what you're doing to help yourself continue to grow, right, outside of the workplace. And so is there anything that you're doing? I don't know if you like any books or podcasts, just like anything outside the box that you're maybe doing just to continuously keep growing?
Yeah, that is a great question. I mean, ideally, I would love to like be monthly in some seminar or doing some things. I mean, obviously listening to Jack's show. I have started reading. My goal for this year was to read 1 business book a month. I think that might have fallen off a bit. Getting my oldest off to college kind of took some time and energy that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. But so reading both like personal development, like women power books, but then just in general, kind of those business books. So Believe It by the woman who did, It Makeup. That is a great one because it really tells of all her failures until she finally got successful. So that was a great one. And I've got Adam Grant's latest book sitting bedside to start on soon. So.
I'm writing these down just so you know. I'm still listening. I'm just typing what you're saying.
Yeah. No. That's good. That's fine.
That's good. So I'm trying to figure out, in my head here, and I want to come off politically correct because I saw your post about imposter syndrome, and you said like men didn't resonate with that, and I didn't even know what imposter syndrome was. So I didn't Google it.
So that was my point.
That's so weird to me. So many men didn't. They're like, "What is this?" Like they had to Google it. I was like, "Is this just a woman thing?" And I don't think it's just a woman thing, but I think more women experience it or are willing to talk about it necessarily than men.
I think it applies when you walk into an environment where you feel like potentially the folks around you are the next level. Yeah. I think that's when you got to be like, ooh, as soon as you get that feeling inside where you can't be yourself, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Denise, I've experienced it. So yes, men do feel that way.
You just didn't call it imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, but it's a feeling of insecurity. And I think all people have that unless you're naive and you just don't care what people think. And maybe that's a syndrome too, right? Yeah. It's like, I don't care. I'm the best. And that's not true either. So I take a slice of humble pie after that statement. Yeah. And I think one thing that, is really important is the dynamic of men working with women and relationship. What can men do to be cognizant of women that are feeling that, like without bringing it up, right? Because you don't want to point it out, but you want to make sure everybody feels comfortable in the room. So what are some things that you see? Because I think they cross both genders, but I don't know. I might be naive to that.
No, that's a great question. I always, I find that when I'm in a meeting and, Zoom is harder, but like those in-person meetings, normally, usually, ideally, everyone that was invited to that meeting is there for a reason, right? Like they have something to add, they had value to bring. And you can see it. There's some people who are not comfortable speaking up or talking. So just creating that room, really engaging everyone in the room, asking for questions, just like letting people believe that they were invited for a reason and you want to hear them. I think that that's one great way that can open up some conversations and, help alleviate some of that.
So I will say this. So during Zoom calls, I notice sometimes the females do not turn on their camera. They haven't done their hair or makeup that day. Is it okay to say, hey, can you put on your camera, to speak? Or
you can absolutely ask, but if they say like, I prefer not to because I am a hot mess today, you need to acknowledge that. My daughter,
Steve and I couldn't get our hair done today. So.
My daughter today, she's like, where are you going? And I'm like, what? She's like, you showered before you took me to school. I was like, this is COVID, everyone. Like, this is COVID. Because normally I like walk the dog, take her to school, hop in the shower, go to work. But she's like, you look nice. Are you getting on an airplane? No, I'm just going to my office. People are going to see me from the waist up today.
That's so good.
And you do look nice, by the way.
Well, thanks.
There you go. So much more fun, probably more enjoyable, bigger audience stuff. So Chicago sports fan.
First place, Chicago Bears. The only time I could say that this season, and after a loss. So we'll just take it for that.
The Sox are overperforming, but you're a long struggling Cubs fan. I see that on your persona, right?
I know. Yes, I am a long struggling Cubs fan. White Sox, I think 7 is their magic number, so I will support them. I'm learning to be Switzerland in my baseball, especially since we got rid of the entire Cubs organization that anyone really cared about.
They're gone, yes. Sports, and then I saw on your thing your obsession with true crime. My wife sucks me into that all the time, and I love your LinkedIn header that says, do something great. I love all of those, and so any stories behind either your true crime obsession and or your do something great LinkedIn header?
Yeah. So my true crime obsession, I'll share with you this. So I was a criminal justice major in college, went to law school, was going to be a criminal defense attorney, and now I'm in government sales. Like
totally connected right there.
Totally connected, which is what I told my son when he was trying to pick a college major. I'm like, it's super important. Like, so it's never going to change. But no, actually, my great grandfather was murdered when I was 2, and I was like super obsessed. Like when I was young, the 16-year-old that had murdered him would come up for parole every year. And so our whole family would like write letters. And so I think it just became like an interest of mine that way. And then, living in Illinois where you had like John Wayne Gacy and, like all that. So I think it just, it's kind of in my blood, in my DNA makeup. So totally obsessed with it, especially unsolved ones. That's my,
I hate those shows. I hate the shows that give you the whole thing. They end the show and go, we're still looking for Billy. And you're like,
I know. Where's Billy? I know, but 20 years from now, they're going to find Billy and it's all going to make so much more sense. And
listen,
because you knew the story from the beginning, you're going to be like,
they're doing with Ancestry.com, where they're taking your DNA and then they don't even know it's you. They're just like 20 links away and they get back to you. That is some creepy stuff, man.
Yeah, I won't do that. I won't do it. My mom's done it. I won't do it.
Right. Who knew they were going to use your ancestry? And who's that other one, though?
That happened to my uncle. I can't even share the whole story because if he was watching, I would be disowned. But it was a very long story where they found his brother's DNA. Long and behold, they ended up like one of them had a child from this and they had no idea until they did the DNA test.
Yep.
And it's just wild.
Yeah, my dad was in Vietnam. I love my dad. My dad passed. My dad was in Vietnam. My dad spent probably 6 months in Korea for work with Motorola over the years. I am terrified to find out like I'm not his only daughter or that I have an older sibling somewhere. Like that's why I won't do it. Like I know the siblings I have and I'm good with that.
Those sites.
I'm not ready.
It sounds they market. I know we're way down some rabbit hole here, but they do some marketing, and you're like, oh, you find out about your background. But then once you're logged on, because I've done it, like once a week, you're like, oh, we found a new cousin, Billy, and you're like, I don't want to know.
That's hilarious.
So I had a question. I guess not as an interesting route, but still, I'd like to understand the answer. So I think that with COVID, something that a lot of companies have struggled with is like, how do we still keep the culture, or how do we create this new work from home culture, right? Because a lot of times we assume it's very much like how you do things in person and how do you interact in an in-person stage, or what events, right? Like, so I guess for your company or for you specifically, is there anything that you've done differently to kind of maintain or even make the culture even greater for the company?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So I've only been with Granicus since January. At my previous company, the culture was something I struggled with. I was the only US-based salesperson on my team. Everyone else was up in Canada. And given the unrest, the civil unrest we were going through last year, plus COVID, it was hard. The culture was hard. Granicus, I joined in January, so they were all remote already. But let me tell you, we have team building events. So we've done like cocktails and cooking events for our team. Our sales kickoff, I was like, how are we going to do a remote sales kickoff and have it be any fun? I mean, they had a DJ. It was one of the most engaging sales kickoffs I've been to, and it was on Zoom. So they have the secret sauce. I don't know how, I don't know what, but it absolutely has made a difference. Because onboarding remotely can be super fun too, but they've made it all work. So
I love that.
But I am ready for in-person again anytime now.
You know what? It's so the grass. We talk about the grass is always greener, right? Our sales team for 9 years. Can we go work from home? Can we go work from home? Right? And people love it. And now look, two years at home, people are like, can we do something? Can you guys get an office? We want to just come to and see some people.
Yeah.
So
pros and cons.
Yep.
Yeah. We did that with QBRs we had our last quarter QBRs was the first time in person. And let me tell you that for every company I've worked for, I was like, oh, in-person QBR is taking us all out of the field, blah, blah, blah. And we were all like, let's go.
Where is it? Right.
In person. It was the best. So
Multi-day events somewhere.
Exactly.
Pick a spot, right?
So exciting.
So great.
We're all ready.
Denise, thank you so much for your time and energy. How can folks reach you? What's the best way to get a hold of you, reach Granicus, and kind of find out more?
Yeah, so me, I'm LinkedIn. So I am like one of 3 Cushaneys out there. I am the Cushaney.
Look at that. Yeah, look at that URL right there.
You just call me Cushaney. So there you go. LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. Granicus is granicus.com. But you can reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with the right people or show you where you can find more information. So
Amen.
Jack and everyone, thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
Any last words of advice for our crew, folks looking to get in the government? Any last tips, tricks, things, any sports shout outs, anything you want to wrap up? We left loose.
So a couple things. So first of all, if you're looking to get into public sector, go on LinkedIn, find someone that's doing it, reach out, find a mentor, have a call. Apply for jobs, right? Like there are openings. And even though you don't necessarily have the public sector experience, you can probably learn that. So again, don't let that imposter syndrome stop you from applying. And I would just like to, again, go on record saying Bears are in first place.
Oh,
so
but they're winless in first place. I don't know.
It's a special Chicago thing.
Well, good luck. Look, good luck with your true crime obsession.
Thank you so
there
much.
every single week. Good luck with your Chicago sports fandom this fall. Amen.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Appreciate your time and energy. Be safe.
Thank you. Bye.
I think Denise is a great example. She's having success and spent her career in the public safety space. And I think it's true, we hit on it. Once you jump in, the size of the deals and the process is amazing. And the chance, honestly, this country's the last 2 years really trying to be more forward thinking and be more inclusive. The public space is definitely more way ahead of the curve for many years. Yeah. We've talked about it here with socioeconomic, trying to help historically disadvantaged either, different demographics or genders or small business. And so government's way, 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 way ahead in that area. And so encourage you, if that's something that's on your heart, it's a great place for you to dig in. So during the show, I know we also mentioned, and Denise had mentioned, hey, there's a bunch of free resources and organizations and what have you. And so that is an amazing lead into the webinar that we're going to do next week during this time slot. So Stevie B, you want to tell the folks what's going to go down?
Yeah, next Wednesday. So same time, we do it at 12 noon Eastern time. Come and join us. This is going to be one of those things that people are always trying to figure out. What events do I go to? Who do I talk to? So we're going to provide you with lists. Like these are free resources. Well, we spend a lot of time putting them together, but they're going to be free to you. So when you come to the webinar, we're going to break down, where are you going with trade shows, right? Like we were talking about some virtual, some in person, right? So we have a huge list of that. And then there's also these organizations. We talked about that earlier on this GovCast. Once you get in these inner circles, your network grows. We all know that. It's also, go Chamber of Commerce meetings. But it's like, where do these government people hang out of there, right? Where do the purchasing people hang out? When you want to be a part of that circle, right? If they're buying what you sell, when you want to be part of that circle. So what groups? They have local chapters all throughout the United States. It's about knowing about them. So we're going to provide you with these free resources. You have to put in the work to join them and get involved, but knowing is half the battle. I think G.I. Joe said that. So once you know it, then it's about acting.
Who said that?
G.I. Joe?
G.I. Joe. Huh.
Knowing's half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
Like there's like the other, like the myths, like the 10 things that are not true about someone in the government. Everyone goes down these rabbit holes and they're like, sign up for bids and RFPs. And like, that's only 20% of all government business. So like, there's this plan that we have put into place that's proven success that we were just going to serve to you on a platter. It's going to be next Wednesday at 12 noon. You need to come there. It's going to be free. We're going to give away Amazon gift cards. We're going to give away, I think so, like $10,000 giveaway. I don't even know. I can't release what it is.
You keep saying that. Yeah.
I can't wait. It's going to be the most exciting giveaway that we ever had at this webinar. So come join us. You're going to get a lot of free information. We tell you about some paid sites too, right? Not everything is free out there. So you have to figure out what solution is best for your company. It depends on your stages, but we can definitely hit the ground running. If you never sold to the government before, here's going to be the playbook. Here's going to be where you go. This is what you do. And then you just take off from there.
Amen. Yes. So specifically, we're going to go through a series of GovSales websites, so different websites that are out there. We're going to go through technology solutions. What are solutions out there that could help you sell to the government better? We're going to go through organizations and associations, as Stephen just mentioned, you should be joining. The trade show list, that alone, we've tried to spend literally years, trying to encapsulate all the different trade shows out there, the most current ones, when are the dates of them, the websites where you can go join if you want to go to the trade show. And then we're also going to give you a whole list of government sales support vendors. There's we've had a bunch of those folks on the show. Yeah. If you need help with marketing, you need help getting on GSA, you need help with trying to write a bid or RFP. There's an array of really support vendors, a large number in the government space that'll help you win government business. And so we're going to give you resources in all of those areas to help you be successful. It's probably the most dense information webinar we're ever going to do, handing out, hey, here's information that you could really help you be successful. So probably our most jam-packed, information-laden webinar, workshop, whatever we're calling it these days. So
bring your coffee.
Yeah, bring your coffee, sheet of paper, whatever you take notes on. I'm old school, newspaper or paper and pencil, but however you take notes, do that thing. And then Stephen's giving away $10,000, I think, in cash coming out of his personal account. So that'll be extra exciting.
The giveaway will be value of $10,000. So I don't want to.
It's not $10,000 from you?
No. Listen, if I had it to give, if my name was Jeff Bezos or someone like that, 10,000 is like $1. Yes, of course.
I think the attendance would have been through the roof if you promised somebody $10,000 cash.
Well, you want to do it? I will give you something that is $10,000 value to make you $1 million. So if you would like a tool to help make you $1 million, then come do it. So, show me.
Dre, any last thoughts?
No. Meet us there next week.
Yes. Stephen, any last things?
I want to know where Andrea got her background. Those wood slats there, I think, are really nice. So you got nice decor.
Virtual or real, Dre? What do you got back there?
That's real.
Real stuff, Steve.
Man,
Pop it on. Nice. Enjoy. Look, football in just 24 hours. We're doing it again, starting off the NFL season. Appreciate you all. See you next week. New webinar. Don't miss it. You see the sign right there. Woo!